tell me about your adventure with QHHT.
It's
And
pretty
what kind of things do you do? I don't know enough about you.
good. Well, for me, for QHHT, it's I kind of took it to take care of my family. Um, I mean, mother-in-law, father-in-law, all of them have some kind of medical issues. My wife, my mother. So when I read Dolores Cannon's book, but what drove me to it was her information about Atlantis and Lemuria, the past
Mm,
life regression, ancient Egypt, and especially Atlantis. And I found a YouTube video where she was talking about Atlantis, and I was like, oh, okay, because I was doing research for a book that I'm creating, or like a story. And so I was wanting to get like this unique type of information,
mm,
from a totally, I guess you could say, like metaphysics or quantum level kind of thing, channeling, hypnosis, anything like Edgar Casey. Edgar
yeah.
Casey is a perfect example. And he was one of the first books that I read, and he has two books. And one of them was just like so much amazing information was in it. I'm like, huh, this is interesting. They're talking about stuff that no one really is talking about mainstream wise.
Yeah.
So when I read Dolores Cannon's book, and the guy was going to the Hall of Records, the library, under hypnosis, and he would see everything as a TV screen, like in front of him, and like a motion picture. And he was talking about how he can see everything from like the people that was there, what they were doing, the buildings, the vehicles, the transportation that they were using, the technology that they were using, the good and the bad, because
Yeah.
there was a bad part to Atlantis. And so I was like, wow, that's interesting. I couldn't put the book down. After that, I was hooked. I couldn't put the book down. I kept on reading it. And matter of fact, I'd even watch TV because it was like the book was more interesting because of all the different sessions, the hypnosis sessions. So um, after that, in her books later on, it talks about the healing. So, and I was like, okay, well, I was in the business to look for like some kind of business that dealt with healing part of it, but something that was
Mhm.
natural. I didn't want something that dealt with pills, chemicals, or powders, or anything like that. Like, I wanted something more natural and something that was unique. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Dolores Cannon's talking about how she's having these sessions, and like people are having these healings,
Yeah.
whether it's tumor, cancer, and so on. And like, so I'm like, okay. I was like, I put them both together. I'm like, it's almost like a win-win situation. You got one part that deals with the past knowledge, and you have access to all this knowledge, and then you have the other part where you helping individuals, and you're dealing with these healings as
Yeah.
well. So when I explore that, I was like, okay. So, but session wise, I've done a few people. Um, my wife was an example. She had a past life in New York, you know, and it kind of explains so much why she's so connected to New York, and how
Yeah.
she wants to move back and she wants to live there. And I'm like, well, shoot, that's why. So,
Yeah. It helps explain stuff and can actually help relieve the anxiety around some of why do I feel like this, and why am
mhm.
I pulled to that? Yeah. Very powerful stuff. So I take it you're not moving to New York then?
Not anytime soon. Not any, she's a little upset, but I told her, all in due process. Patience is a virtue, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
wait for certain things to take off, and so on. Right now, the job is, I'm in New Orleans, so right now the job is in New Orleans.
Mm.
So she's like, well, you can venture out and look up there, and expand your clientele. I said, yeah, that's true. That's true. I will. I'll work on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She can manifest it.
Absolutely,
Just tell her if
absolutely,
she's going to manifest it, to have her see you very happy in that manifestation. Just
absolutely.
keep
Oh, she
seeing you
already
happy, see you happy.
she already has a dream board, pictures, a collage,
Yeah.
everything put together, and it's in her room, so it's all decorated, all the things that she wants to do.
Yep. That's
So
good. That's good.
so I call it the wish board, and she's like, "No, it's the dream board." So,
Well, either way, yeah, putting it out there and creating a reality around it. So that's good.
hmm hmm
So, in your sessions, are you finding people really connecting to that higher self and getting their answers to their deeper questions?
Yes, yes. You know, one one client, like, she had these thoughts of, like, that she knew she had a child. She had the strong feeling that she had a child, and that she didn't know how this happened. She didn't know um, why she felt this connection to a child,
Hmm.
and it blew my mind. And that's probably the other reason why I was like, if I could do this full time, all
Yeah.
the time, I was like, there's a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, the information that comes from it is nonstop.
Yeah. You can see
So,
why Dolores's books are so thick.
oh yes, absolutely. I
Yeah.
even showed my mom one of those books, and she goes, "God, you're gonna read that book, that whole thing?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah."
You
So,
betcha.
hmm she, in her situation, she felt this connection with the child, and come to find out that she has a hybrid child, and that she's part of this experiment. She's part of this um, agreed upon experiment, and her child, um, her eggs and all that was developed into another wound, another fetus, but it's her child and everything. So under hypnosis, um, she said that she will be connected with the child in 2 or 3 years. So
You're
in
giving
two,
me chills.
yeah, so in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to text her like, so just
Right.
following up,
How's the baby?
yes, yes.
So this
And
is something that's happening with her currently then. This is
yeah,
like now
yeah.
time. This isn't like a year ago or so
No, this is
she's
probably
in it.
like 6 months ago when she had her session and everything.
Hmm.
About 4 or 5 months ago. So, but that was answered, and I was like, wow. I mean, who would have thought that that explained her connectivity?
Hmm.
Another thing that was interesting that we found answers for was that her father. This was a good one. She was close with her father at a young age. When they got older, um, they were in arguments and fighting as time went on, and she was always in an argument with her father. And then the father leaves, and then the father comes back when she's older. Now she's an older lady. She's, grown, moved out, moved on, and the father comes back into the picture, and they start up a business, and they started, coming together. They started, you know bonding again. And like 3 years later, it was so sad, 3 years later, he dies.
Mm.
And in this session, in the interview process, she's like, I always wanted to know why, we fought, we argued, and then he comes back to my life, and we get better, everything's good. And then it's like, when things start getting better and taking off, he dies. And in this session, it was explained that, and just like in Dolores Cannon's books, his contract was fulfilled. So he needed forgiveness, he needed love from you, and you forgave him, and the commitment was taken care of, and the contract was done. And so he had the
Yeah.
right, at that time, he had a right to leave. And uh, medical wise, he died of cancer.
Yeah.
So, if I ain't mistaken, he
And
was.
sometimes we don't realize that we might choose that exit point so that we don't screw up what we just fixed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, okay, I got the fix. Let's get out of here. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool too, to be able to get that closure and that clarity on what happened. And that I find a lot happens, you know, when people are looking at the relationships. And you know, one of the things QHHT is really good at is when somebody writes on their list of questions, what is my contract or karma with this person or that person, and you know, the spouse, the parents, the children, the whatever, and getting kind of a deeper connection with that,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to understand why their story looks like it does, you know, and why is it playing out that way? What are we learning? What are we gaining from this cycle we're in, or whatever it might be? And so that's one of the parts where I really like to help people get a little deeper with their questions, and be like, okay, what else do you want to know? Let's really dig deep and find the little pieces that might make the biggest differences, you know. And
Absolutely.
yeah. So do you get a lot of people that go off planet?
Yes, that was a good one. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that one up because that was one of my favorites. I would say it was more than off planet. It was off planet. And I think this happened when Maldek was destroyed. And if I am mistaken, I think that was 1,000,000 years ago. I might be
Mm.
wrong with the date. Someone's going to comment with the date.
Oh, maybe we'll beat them to it.
When
Let's
Maldek
Google that.
was destroyed. There you go. Let's get some Google going. But uh, let's see how smart Google is. It's either 1,000,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago when it was destroyed.
Legend of, let's see. Oh,
Maldek.
that's a lot of article going on there. Let me scan. Anyway, go on.
All right. Well, so we're having a session and everything, and at first I thought she was just a creature on another planet because she was talking about the leaves, the color of the leaves. They were like this blue, fluorescent, and on one side they were blue, and on the other side they were black, and they had this glow, this fluorescent color to them. And she described her skin like a tree frog, and it was blue and purple. And she said, I feel like my skin's a frog, like a tree frog and everything. And she's like, it's kind of like that matted tree frog feel. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it's purple and blue. And we're looking for minerals. We're looking for minerals and rocks, and we're looking for materials. I said, okay. And then she was describing her other colleagues, her other friends, and she's like, they're upset with me. They're not happy with me. And I was like, why? Because I'm outside this circle doing my own thing, and I don't want to be next to them. And I am looking for, what I need to look for in this area, and they can go to that area. So I'm like, okay, so here I'm thinking that this is just like, she's just a creature on another planet. And
Mm-hmm.
that was it. And come to find out that she has to leave. They have to go back to a spaceship. So I'm like, what? There's a spaceship? So
You're like, yes.
I was like, now we're talking. All right, now we're talking. So
As you move the microphone just a little closer.
yeah, I was like, speak loud and clear. So she's talking about the spaceship, and now she's inside of it. So I'm like kind of interested in a way. And I'm like, so what do you see? Like, how does this work and everything? She's talking about the center console. Someone's in the middle of it. And she's like, it's connected multiple ways. Like, it's just not a physical ship. It's connected to you. And like the ship can feel what you want to do. and she's like, there's gadgets to the left, there's consoles to the right, and there's a person in the middle, like kind of like in a chair. And I was like, okay, all right. And she's like, we finished looking for these minerals and these materials. So, and I asked her, I'm like, so what is these materials for? Why are you looking for them? She's like, we need it for the planet that we live on, and we need to find certain resources and materials to save our planet. So I'm like, okay. And she goes, they go to the planet, and what else happens? So they're talking, and she pretty much, it gets kind of like dull and boring a little bit, and nothing was really happening. So I fast forward the scene, and next thing you know, she's like, there's rocks falling. There's rocks falling. I'm like, okay. Why is, where the rocks are coming from? She's like, from the atmosphere, they're coming down. And I'm like, okay. Why is the rocks coming down? And she's like, it's dark energy. It's dark energy falling down on us. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what are you doing right now? I was like, describe what you're doing. She's like, I'm running. I'm trying to get away. And then she's like, I'm dead.
Oh.
Like that. I'm like,
it's over.
Like, I'm smashed. I'm dead. I'm like, what? I was
the end.
I was like,
yeah.
We're just getting started.
Dang.
So we talked about that, and pretty much what was happening was, it dealt with when the higher self came in. The higher self was saying that was Maldek, and the planet was destroyed, and she lived on that planet, and it was destroyed by dark energy because of the evilness. I think there was 2 planets at war, if I ain't mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Mars and Maldek, from what I understand, they were at war. And so it wound up destroying them and in that planet. And so I like early on, I read somewhere that Maldek was part of the that made up the rings of Saturn and so on, like all the astral fields, the meteorites and the rocks, and that's where all that debris came from. And the higher self said, no, all that material's gone. It's out there in space. You never see it again. I was like, oh, okay.